Hello, Marvelites! You are watching a very special episode of Marvel Live presented by the all-new Toyota Sienna, and I'm very excited to be here with you today because we're talking about Heroes Reborn. Oh my goodness, this story is gonna be terrific, and it is written by our guest this week, the bearded bad boy of comics himself, Jason Aaron. That's what he calls himself. Just go with it. You guys, it's gonna be terrific. It's gonna be awesome. Big, exciting storyline. Before we get into talking with Jason, why don't we watch this brand new trailer to see the story behind Heroes Reborn. Woo! Jason Aaron, it is good to talk to you here, my friend. How are you?
Good. It's good to talk to you.
And especially because we are talking about Heroes Reborn. We just saw an awesome trailer. Jason, give us the lowdown. What is Heroes Reborn all about?
It is a version of the Marvel Universe that I'm pretty confident in saying we've never seen before. And the entire world has been changed so that the Avengers never existed and Earth's mightiest heroes have always been the Squadron Supreme, which, as you can imagine, changes quite a lot of the big Marvel stories that we know from the past.
All right, so Squadron Supreme of America. Of course, you mentioned a couple of the characters. You mentioned that the Squadron in some way, shape, or form has been around for a long, long time. There's been some great Squadron Supreme stories over the years. But for anybody who is watching this who does not know who the Squadron Supreme of America is, can you tell us who those characters are?
Sure, you have Hyperion, who is the mightiest man in all of the Marvel Universe. You know, we established kind of the new secret identities for these guys in the pages of Avengers. Hyperion is Mark Milton, who's a middle school American history teacher by day. And Nighthawk is, in the House of Representatives, is the delegate from Washington, D.C. Dr. Spectrum wields the Power Prism, which gives them incredible cosmic power. There's Power Princess, who is Princess Zarda from Paradise Isle. And then you have Blur, who is the fastest mortal alive.
And then, of course, Agent Coulson thrown into the mix. It's really, really cool to see how else is going to shake down. How deep do you go in planning, like, yeah, okay, over these years this happened, and this character's history may not actually show up on a page, but this is what I know that their path has been.
So that Hyperion issue I looked at as like, this is basically issue number 724 of the Hyperion comic that's been running in this universe. So he has had countless adventures we've seen before over the years. So I kind of tease some of those here and there, tease like who are his greatest enemies? How are those villains maybe a little bit different than the versions of the villains we know? What are his relationships like, with some of the good guy characters we know from the Marvel Universe? So Peter Parker is one of those characters, Reed Richards. So a lot of it was just me seeding a lot of that stuff in those issues, just kind of packing them with as much stuff as I could and having a ridiculous amount of fun along the way. And then for the tie-ins, we just kind of pulled bits and pieces from those issues to expand on. So, at one point I tease a little bit about what was the story of Civil War like in this universe where, there is no Iron Man, there is no Captain America. So instead it was a battle between Hyperion and Nighthawk, and why was that and what happened because of that. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff, in these these 8 issues.
I want to get more into all of what you just said, but I want to know who's joining you to do all these stories. Who's on art?
Yeah, it's a pretty stellar lineup of artists across the 8 books. Every issue is a different artist. Kicking things off is Ed McGuinness. He kicks things off in a big way, and then after that, each issue kind of focuses on a different member of the Squadron Supreme, a different corner of this weird new Marvel universe. You get people I've never worked with, like James Stocco, who's doing amazing stuff on the Dr. Spectrum book, which is, you know, the weird cosmic corner of this Heroes Reborn universe. You get R.M. Guerra drawing Nighthawk. So it's a really amazing group of artists over the course of the 2 months of Heroes Reborn.
You mentioned that this is the world where the Squadron Supreme of America is the premier super team and there's no Avengers. Why did you want to do this big story as you've been writing so many awesome Avengers stories where there are no Avengers?
You know, I mean, I like those stories that kind of tweak Marvel history a little bit. You know, all those kind of what if sort of stories. And this is basically doing that for the entirety of the Marvel timeline. When there's no Avengers, there's no Spider-Man, there's no Fantastic Four. They're really, you know, the Marvel Universe as we know it, the heroes don't exist in this world as we know them. So the Squadron have been at the heart of every major Marvel story, whether that's the first time Galactus came to Earth, the Kree-Skrull War, the Civil War. Everything has been changed to reflect the Squadron Supreme characters.
Some of those stories we've seen in the past that they're like these characters who sort of are anchored into this reality, coming from a different reality. Blade, it kind of remembers the way things were. Why did you choose Blade to be this character with that point of view?
Yeah, you pick up Heroes Reborn, this whatever has happened has already happened. Like the entire world has been changed. Nobody seems to remember that the Avengers ever existed. And Blade is the one guy who's kind of going around wondering, you know, am I crazy? Did any of this stuff really happen? And as the story goes along, you know, there'll be a very particular reason as to why it was Blade was the one who remembered. I really liked him being in that position as a guy who's relatively new to the Avengers corner of the world. It's a little bit out of his comfort zone. You know, he's much more comfortable just killing vampires all the time. So to have him be the guy who remembers the Avengers and has to try to reform the Avengers in the midst of this crazy new world, and, you know, I thought that'd be a lot of fun.
You're a big comic buff, you know that, like, okay, an anniversary in issue like 600 would have been some big event for this character. Do you have those type of thoughts in your head too?
Sure. I mean, we packed a tremendous amount in there, including like nods to kind of, you know, these versions of the characters from the Silver Age or the Golden Age, like going into the past. A lot of different references to secondary characters, past storylines, love interests. There's a lot. So I think pretty much everything I jotted down, I was able to pack into one of these issues or the other. And should mention, these issues are also a little bit oversized. So there's the main story, and then there's also a backup story in each issue. So, you know, in an issue that focuses on Nighthawk, you also get a backup drawn by Ed McGuinness in every issue that follows the Avengers characters as they try to reform in this weird new world. So again, it starts with Blade and Blade trying to figure out, does anybody else remember this? What happened to, you know, all the other people in the Avengers? And we follow him kind of through those backups as he tries to piece things together. So there are other little Easter eggs and things that we stuck in the backups too. Final
question, and very, very important. You and I, we got tattoos together for a previous story of yours, War of the Realms, over here. Yeah, there you go. If you were to get a tattoo tied to Heroes Reborn, what would it be? And then what would my tattoo be? Because we would have to get them together.
Oh, that's a good question. I hadn't thought about this story in relation to tattoos.
What if you got Hyperion's like Spanx belt thing tattooed on your belly?
That's a bold statement. Maybe you could do that one and I could do something else.
Yeah, okay. All right. Let's see if we can get that approved.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that'll definitely get approved.
Jason, you're the best. Thank you so much for being here. check out Heroes Reborn #1, available at your local comic shop or in the Marvel Comics app this May. It's really awesome. You're going to love it. I'm Ryan Penagos, and you've been watching Marvel Live, presented by the all-new Toyota Sienna.